Hello students, welcome to our e-lesson on developing instructional materials. We are going to cover two objectives in this e-lesson. First, we'll talk about the guidelines for translating the instructional design plan into instruction. And then we'll also look at the design considerations for technology-based instruction. So again, coming back to our model, Morrison and Kemp's model, we have made it through all the way from instructional problem through the different analysis techniques and then design, and now we are in the development stage. So in the first section, we will talk about heuristics for developing instruction. So some of the guidelines that we have been given when you're developing instruction, you want to make it concrete. Concrete information creates a mental image for the learners, and it's very important for them to know that. So for learners, so how can you do that? They talk about adding visuals in terms of pictures or using videos, personalizing instruction according to your learner needs and their characteristics, using short words and active sentences rather than passive sentences, and also using examples that are helpful for the learners. So combination of abstract and concrete information is helpful for the students. The second guideline is to control the step size. So what is step size? It is the jumps between ideas. So again, if you want to know you need to know your learners, and it'll help you identify the step size. You don't want to use step size that is too large that your learners can't handle it. So be consistent, use consistent terminology, use references from previous step during the transition, and also make sure you do your learner analysis, because that'll help you identify the step size for your instruction. Use appropriate pacing. Pacing is not just the instructor speaking, but also the text and material. So you need to make sure that if it's not fast paced and it's according to the learners, or if it's not slow paced according to your learners' needs. As a subject matter expert, you might know all the terms, but you can assume that your learners will. So you want to stay with the same terms. Also, for the design as well, it's important to keep it consistent so that the students are familiar with the design as well. When you develop instruction, cues are very important. In text, you can use boldface or italics to catch your learner's attention, or provide more emphasis on the text that you want them to learn. Also, using signals like pointers and graphics are also essential. And all these are the message design principles that you'll learn in your book. Uh, that was a quick look at the heuristics. Now we'll look at the design guidelines. So this is an overview of the design guidelines process. We talked about pre-instructional strategies, and then initial presentation, generative strategies, and transitions. So let's take a quick look at what this is. So pre-instructional strategies where learners first get in contact with your instruction. So and that includes overview, pretest, objectives, advanced organizers, just getting your students into the instruction. And then the initial presentation is where the information is given to achieve the learner objectives. For a concept, you probably give them the concept name, the definition of that concept, and also maybe one or two best examples that help them understand the concept. And then the generative strategies, where you create a learning opportunity. So this is where you want the deeper processing to happen. So you provide guidelines. After that, you want to provide feedback to your learners. And then transition are very important as you complete one objective and move on to the other one. So it could be a sentence. It doesn't have to be a long summary, but transitions are always important for students to move on from one topic to the other topic. Now moving on, we are still talking about guidelines, and now we are going to talk about cognitive load. I would like to take a moment to look at this picture. And as you can see, this is a picture of a kitchen. So try to see different objects that are shown in the picture. So, okay, let's move on. So I don't know how much you remember what you saw in the picture, but can I expect you to remember every single thing in the picture? Of course not. Probably 3 to 5 things in the amount of time I showed you. So talking about cognitive load, it refers to the total amount of mental activity um, imposed on working memory at an instant in time. So you were looking at the picture and were taking in all the information, but there is only a number of elements that you could pay attention to. So the major factor that contributes to cognitive load is the number of elements that need to be attended to. This model of memory and learning was proposed in 1968, so it has been around for a while. So according to this model, there are three components of memory. For example, like sensory memory, short-term memory, and long-term memory. And your memory, it moves to from the sensory memory to short-term memory, and from uh, short-term memory to the long-term memory. So if you see there is a stimuli, and then sensory memory is looking like, is like looking at information, and then when you pay attention, it moves to the short-term memory, and from short-term memory again the transfer happens into the long-term memory. And if it doesn't happen, it can be forgotten right at any stage of the process. So sensory memory, we have like 5 different sensory organs. So the capacity is unlimited. As you can see, hear, taste, touch, and smell. However, the capacity of the working memory is very limited, and its duration is brief. Chunking and organization and retrieval that depends on the size of the information that is held. So what factors influence moving information to short-term memory from your sensory memory? So, for example, size in terms of large objects draw attention. Also, more intense stimuli attract attention, like intensity. Novel stimuli attract attention. Also, the objects that don't make sense within their context attract attention. Stimuli with long emotional associations, and also personally relevant stimuli also attracts attention. So from short-term memory, it has to move to the long-term memory. So for long-term memory, the capacity to take information is theoretically unlimited. It also the form of storage is bulk semantically stored. The duration is indefinitely long. Storage is best with SOI approach and schemas, and the retrieval closely tied to storage processes. So what is a schema? So these are the outcomes of active cognitive processing, and is the construction of a coherent mental representation. So, for example, if you hear the word office, automatically many words would come into your mind, or the pictures of office come to your mind, or the things that you've seen in an office or in a picture, and so on. So that is the schema that you have about an office. So similarly, any topic, when you hear about the topic name or topic, you have schemas of those things in your head. So this is an advanced version of the model of learning and memory. As you may notice, it has pictures and visuals and words, and visuals and words can actually both be text and audio. Um, so how it goes into sensory memory and the process of SOI model, which include selecting, organizing, and integrating. And then in the working memory, from when it moves from sensory memory to working memory, again, it goes through the process of SOI again. And then there is some integration happening between the verbal and pictorial mode, and then it goes into the long-term memory. I would like all of you to take the time to watch this video. I will not play it here, but you can find the link in the PDF, and it explains the principles of multimedia learning along with with good examples, and this will help you while you're working or developing your own projects. So now moving on to the next section, which is on technology-based instruction. So we will talk about the delivery modes. In the book, they talk about uh, group presentations or lectures, distance education, self-paced learning, small group learning. So again, there are advantages and limitations to each of these methods. These are some of the delivery methods that you may learn about. The first one is drill and practice, and this is the earliest form of computer-based instruction that was used to strengthen associations between stimuli and response or question and answer. Then there are other delivery methods like tutorials, in which you present new materials for initial learning, simulations that model real-world phenomena by presenting a realistic representation. Then there are other delivery methods like games that add motivational factors, and then hypermedia that connects, via hyperlinks and in internet and connecting to videos and other information in online environment. For design considerations, whatever delivery method you choose, interface design is very important, right from navigation to making it too simple and clear for your learners. For learner control, what kind of control you giving your learners? If it's self-paced, how when they can stop, if they can choose an activity, and when they can choose. So all those things are design considerations for learner control. Also, giving them feedback on learning process is important, and also remediation, an opportunity for them to do the task again and learn the information on their own pace. So for your own projects in class, we don't have a whole lot of time to spend on the development. There are other courses in program that focus more heavily on the development, but in this class, the minimum requirement is just a self-paced tutorial PowerPoint, which the learners can walk themselves from the beginning to the end, and that should be fine, for this project. However, if you want to challenge yourself and you want to use another technology, you can go ahead and use it, and that should be fine with me as well. But don't go into detail in developing your project, just one portion of your instruction in which it's a self-paced module or tutorial. That's good enough. Quiz or tutorial or anything is good enough for the project because that meets the requirements. So we've covered these two objectives in which we looked at the guidelines for translating the instruction design plan into instruction, and also we talked about the considerations for technology-based instruction. Thank you. Have a great week.